Hi guys, it's Matt from Maxon UK here, and in this video we're going to be looking at the hair material. Now the hair material is quite lengthy and it's got a lot of different options, so we're just going to spend some time moseying through them and seeing what they do individually. So let's bring up the hair material here. Okay, so we've got quite obviously the obvious one, which is colour. So this allows you to choose the colour of your material, of your hair. So at the moment it's kind of set to brown, and you can easily change with that with using these sliders if you want to give it some interesting a sort of purple look, and then just select the other the other boxes and adjust your way through. If you wanted some more boxes, just click and you can create some, and then just a quick render will allow you to see interesting what that actually does to your hair material. The backlit color does exactly what it sounds like, is that it will give you a color depending on if there is a light behind anything. So let's just give that a go. If I just increase the length of the fur here that I'm using, and then let's stick a light behind. Okay, you can see that we've got sort of interesting brown look here, but where it's not behind this light in particular, it stays that interesting purple color. And just turn that off, and there we go, we've got that purple gradient. So it does exactly what you'd expect. It gives you a backlit color, so from some interesting effects there perhaps. Specular, as you'd expect to find on most of the other textures, it gives you some strengths that you can change as to how shiny you actually want your hair to be. Obviously depending on what conditioner you've been using perhaps. So that gives you control over just how shiny that is. Transparency, as you would expect, you can control how transparent your hair becomes. So if you want it quite transparent, then you have a white end and it will just start to fade out nearer that. Okay, I might just undo that so that we can continue to use the hair the way that we need it to. Thickness, now this is literally how thick each of these strands is. So if I render, you can see it's not too long, not too wide, and it comes to a point, and that's determined by this. If I was to make it 1 centimeter to 1 centimeter and then render, you can see that it becomes very sticky, like a sort of plastic brush perhaps. So more bristles than necessarily hair, and you could go absolutely crazy, say stick that to 5, and it all becomes a whole load of coney triangle things. So it's quite useful, and you've got some variations that you can add, so they're not necessarily all the same. But I'm just going to put that back to a normal sort of hair length size so that you can see what it starts to do a little bit later on. Then you've got length being controlled by the fur, hair or feather objects. If I put control in there, you can control its variations based on this, and you can control its length based on its percentage of the fur output. So just whack that back to 100s, variation 0, just turn that back off. Actually, I'm going to turn off backlit color and transparency so that we're not using it at all. I'm going to go for Frizz at the moment, and Frizz, well, if I render it, shows you that it becomes frizzy. So it all starts to weave and go in a variety of different directions, which is quite cool. And again, you can control just exactly how frizzy it becomes so that it becomes completely mental, or you can go for just a slight variance of Frizz. Kink is very similar to Frizz, but it will sort of twist the individual things. So whereas Frizz would send them into different directions, Kink literally kinks the individual hairs up so they become sort of a little bit crazier. And again, you've got percentage and variations that you can change. Density allows you to choose the density of the hair. So if I just move my camera, you can see if I render that it's 100% dense. Now if I drop it down a lot to say only 20%, need to put a tick in the box and then render, you can see that it becomes a lot more sparse. So if I put that back to 100, you can also choose, say, like a a noise thing. Maybe let's use something like cranial, but then I shall move that to object, and then I shall increase the amount of black space. I'm just going to scale that up a bit as well. You can see that it does sort of change where it's kind of put. Maybe if I go the other way, increase that contrast quite a bit, it really does become quite sparse. So it's, you know, it's being directed by that. So put my camera back to where it was, turn off density. Clumping does exactly what you'd expect. It clumps the hairs, so it, you know, kind of looks like it's matted or muddy. Tighten will just start to, you know, curl stuff based on what's already there. So if you've got some really, you know, in crazy curvatures with the kinks and the frizz and stuff, tighten will increase that even further. Displace can add some further variations to the sort of kinks of it. You can see that it displaces each of these out further. Bend does exactly what you think it would do. It allows the things to bend ever so slightly, and again you can increase the bend variations and it will start to move over, and it's very similar to all of the others. Curl will curl the hair, so you can see that it starts to curl over, and you can make a really good velcro there, which is really interesting. Twist, I'm going to leave curl on and see if twist will demonstrate for you. There we go. It individually twists each of the segments, so it twists it on its own axis, a bit like twisting up the hair. Rather than curling over, it twists round, because twist on its own you won't see, because you can't see this individual hair twisting. Wave will, you know, ever so slightly wave the hair, and straighten will straighten out stuff depending on what you have in there already, which I don't have. Okay, I hope that was a useful little guide through what each of the individual things do within the hair texture, and I will catch you next time.